So with this isolation thing going around, I mean, we're in isolation. It's been a long time. So during isolation, I've had a lot of time to read plenty of books, and I've come across a handful of books that have been really life-changing for me, and I felt like I really had to share these books. You never know if one of them will catch your eye and you'll read it and it'll be just as life-changing for you as it was for me. So without further ado, let me share the top 7 books that have been the greatest thing ever since sliced bread. Well, no, I picked this up at a thrift store and I had to use it. No, the 7 most life-changing books, or at least the ones that have had a huge impact in my life. I'm gonna be doing this in reverse order, so going backwards to the number 1 most life-changing book. So for number 7, we have What Everybody Is Saying by Joe Navarro. My friends hate me for reading this book. This book makes you a bit of a mind reader. First off, because this is a book about reading body language, and it's written by a ex-FBI agent, so you know it's really good. Turns out that subconsciously, not only do our faces give off signs of how we're feeling, but also our bodies and how we move them and just position all of it. It amazes me. This is actually a book I read when I had a job in security, and I basically people watched all day. After reading this book and like during reading this book, I'd be like, okay, this chapter is about this. And I would just eyeball people and see, oh, that man is standing in that position because he is attracted to that woman. So there's a lot of fun things like that, but then there's also the ways where you could tell like, oh, maybe that person's lying. I think they're definitely hiding something. And the things that I've learned in this book, I use in the social interactions I have with my friends, where if I'm in a group of friends, I'm kind of the one who always notices when someone's feeling a little off or uneasy, and I'm always the first one that comes up and confronts them about it. Is it a good thing? Yeah, but it could also be annoying when some friend is like, I don't want to talk about it, let's just move on with the day. It's a very powerful book. You will gain powers that you can never unlearn. I think it's well worth a read if that's something you're interested in. For number 6, we have Practicing the Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. So here's the thing. Our minds are always thinking. They're always processing thoughts. They're always coming up with worries and doubts about the future. And more often than not, a future that's probably never going to happen. Practicing the Power of Now is a book that is exactly what it sounds like. It's practicing being in the moment. And trust me, that is not an easy thing to do. When you're always having thoughts come up, those thoughts basically control your everyday life. But if you can learn how to stop letting those thoughts control your everyday life, then you can be more present, then you can enjoy the moments more. Give your friends, family, and loved ones the beauty of being in the moment, being in the present with them. This book has made me a much more productive person because I don't sit around worrying and thinking about the what ifs. I've actually just go in and do stuff. I feel like this book was the breakthrough I needed when I was going through kind of a health fitness transformation in my life, because I was always worried if I'm eating too many calories or not enough calories, and am I doing these exercises correctly? And after reading this book, I came to the realization that, yeah, let's not worry about it. Let's just acknowledge the moment, do what's hard, and then just move on to the next thing. And then before you know it, you know, life catches up to you, and the thing that you were always thinking about just kind of happens and manifests itself. I think it's a beautiful book, and it's really changed the way I think. So if that's something you're interested in, I definitely think you should check that one out. Moving on to number 5. I actually have a physical copy of this one. Some of these books I don't actually have physical copies because some of them I've actually given away to friends after reading them because I like them so much I want other people to also have, you know, that life-changing opportunities or moments that I had. And some of these books I've actually listened to on Audible. And if you've never tried Audible, I highly recommend you do, because rather than having giant piles of books, you can listen to them on your phone or tablet, and you can multitask while you're doing it. I like to listen to audiobooks when I'm driving. I also like to listen to audiobooks when I'm relaxing and painting at my wonderful paint station I've made over there. So if you've never tried Audible or you've been on the fence about it, I highly recommend you try it, because right now I've actually teamed up with Audible. There's a link in the description below where you can get a free trial and a free audiobook. So if any of these books catch your eye, you can pick it up for free and start listening to it immediately. Moving on to the list. Number 5, Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins. This is a very thick book, but it's a very powerful and emotional one for me, because this is one of the first books I've ever read when I first started my journey into personal development. What makes this book so great is it's kind of a workbook. It has a lot of exercises in it, and every chapter in here gives you like a beautiful gem that you could take and run with for the rest of your life. As an example, one of my favorite ones in this book is when he talks about the chapter of transformative vocabulary, I think is what it was called. No, it's not called transformative vocabulary. The chapter is called The Vocabulary of Ultimate Success. But I call it transformative vocabulary because of what I think it does. Basically, we use words every day that are pretty powerful and carry a very heavy meaning and message to it. Like, say for instance, you're using the word angry. Yeah, of course you're going to be angry. But if you use the word peeved instead, it's kind of hard to be angry when you're talking about how peeved you are about a topic, because peeved is just such a silly word to use. How can you be angry when you're using such a ridiculous word like peeved? So if you're interested in learning more about that vocabulary chapter or a lot of the other amazing chapters that are in this book, I highly recommend you check this one out. Moving on to number 4. This one's very kind of controversial, but when, there's books that are very life-changing, there are going to be a lot of controversial ones. Number 4, The Game. Penetrating the Secret Society of Pickup Artists. So this is a dating book for guys. Sort of. Let me explain. You ever wonder why the douchebag gets the girl? Well, this book explains why the douchebag gets the girl, how he gets the girl, and how can you use the tactics to get the girl. I think you could see why this is a controversial book. But that's not what it's all about. It also talks about the dangers of what can happen when you really start abusing that power and you start looking at relationships and dating as a numbers game rather than actually using it to make human connections. If you're single, I highly recommend this book, whether you are a guy or a girl. Guys, because it will give you the confidence needed to go out, be social, and actually date. Girls, because then you know when a guy is trying to run the game on you rather than trying to be genuine. This is a book that I read when I went through a big breakup, which actually helped give me the encouragement I needed to go out there and start dating again. That's why it was so life-changing for me, and that's why it's made this list. And for number 3, we have The Complete Conversations with God. I almost forgot to move my head. So without going too much into religion, I do believe that every single person, at least at some point in their life, is gonna go through a spiritual journey, is gonna question their religion. And I know I was going through that journey, and I read plenty of books trying to figure out everything on this topic. I like this book a lot because it takes a very non-biased approach look at religion and God. And while I was reading it, it helped answer all the questions I had. It gave me that spiritual enlightenment that I was looking for. And a lot of me feeling content about spirituality came from reading this book. So if you're going through that type of journey, I definitely recommend The Complete Conversations with God. Number 2, Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion by Robert Cialdini. This book will save you money. This is a book about marketing and the business tactics and all the shady practices that people use to subliminally influence your subconscious on how to get you to spend more money. And here's the thing, especially in today's day and age where you can't go to social media without seeing ads being bombarded in your face, you need to have the power and knowledge to combat these advertisements. Because I promise you, after reading this book, you will look at an ad, or you'll go to the store and you'll see a sale, or you'll see a salesperson when you're trying to buy something, trying to pitch you something. Instead of falling for their tactics, in your head you'll just be thinking, yeah, I know that one. nice try. It actually becomes a lot of fun seeing advertisements now because I kind of point out like, oh, okay, that's the fear of missing out tactic. Yeah, okay, that's price anchoring. Yeah, trust me, ignorance in the long run will cost you a lot more money than it would if you picked up and read this book. All right, now moving on to my favorite book of all time. You like the little tie-in? How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant book. I've written all over it. I think this is my third copy because I just keep buying them and giving them to friends. So here's the thing. We live in a social world. Every day there is some sort of social interaction happening. So why not become an expert at social interactions? This is also one of those books that could be taken the wrong way where, oh, that's social engineering, or you're manipulating people with the things you learn in this book. Well, then that's all the more reason why you need to read this. Rather than having people use social tactics against you, you'll know what the social tactics are so you could catch them. And you'll be able to use them for good, which I believe is the whole introduction about this book of, yes, the tools in here are very powerful. You will make friends and influence people. So when you do learn these powers, use them for good. English actually wasn't my first language. It was Russian. Thank goodness I do not have a very heavy accent, then all these YouTube videos would be kind of awkward. Or maybe more entertaining for you. But yeah, English wasn't my first language, so growing up, I always just felt a little socially awkward. This book actually really helped me close that gap, and it made me into the person I am today. This book has actually helped me beat the anxiety I have when I need to be social, and it's also actually improved the relationships I already have. How to Win Friends and Influence People is a must-read for everybody. So if any of these books have caught your eye, there are links in the description down below where you can pick them up. There's also a link to Audible where you can sign up and get one free audiobook. Oh God, my camera's about to die. So if you have read any books that have been life-changing for you, please leave them down in the comment section below so you can enlighten all of us and give us all recommendations of other books that we should all read. Until then, this has been Tony Sticks, and may you keep reading more books. Isolation going around. I mean, everyone is in isolation.